Yes, each month we like to recognize folks that are making a difference in our district, and I believe Lori Rost is going to introduce our difference makers this month.
I have the team, just a small team from Thorpe Gordon Elementary. We are recognizing the Thorpe Gordon staff tonight for all the work that they did as a team together after the tornado. I just have to say, it's an honor to work with this group. And they've showed their true colors, true spirit of community building, team building, and just rallying as a team after the May 22nd tornado. When that happened, when the tornado happened, one of the first things Chris did was try to get to the school to see what damage had occurred, because he knew that was in the home neighborhood area and he couldn't get there. So daylight happened and he was able to get to Thorpe Gordon and see the devastation of the neighborhood for his families. Before that even happened at daylight, some of the teachers were connecting with their families and calling homes to make sure that the kids were okay. And that says a lot about the teachers, because those are their babies and their kids, and their students and their families. And so it's just so important to recognize each one of these individuals, but especially their leader as well. Chris rallied the troops. It took one text message, I think, and everybody was on site. We were worried about summer school beginning in just a few days, and they came over to Dix Road with their cell phones, and 2 offices were full of staff members calling every one of the families of the kids who were enrolled for summer school. What can we do for you? Do you need anything? Where are you? Are you displaced? Do you need bus? Do you need any information about shelters, clothing, food, anything? They were on the phone immediately. And then when we got finished there, we went straight to Thorpe Gordon, and Chris had a plan. And we went through classrooms, we saw what damage had been done, he was doing assessments. The teachers immediately followed the plan Chris had set out to set up classrooms on the first floor so that summer school could take place, and they didn't have to worry about anybody being around workers in the next few weeks as the second floor got cleaned up and water got removed. And it was just amazing. It was amazing to watch the team. And I have a special place for Thorpe Gordon. That's where I taught for years here in the district. And to watch this team come together at that school just is said a lot. And so we gathered when we were finished outside, and where the huge tree was gone that had been there forever by the benches, they knelt down, we took a picture around it, and we made a promise that we would be replacing that tree in the coming months. So I just have to say, this team is a difference maker. All of them are. And so I just would like to have a round of applause for them for all the work that they've done and continue
I can see that. I can see it. What's it, the other side?
Yes.
Balance?
Yes.
Should I go down a level?
Perfect. Okay, ready? Kelsey? You're right a little. Can you squeeze in closer? Yes.
Squeeze anything else.
Kelsey. Now to your left, Kelsey. Sorry. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great job.
There.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
All right. That's what we have. That's the one and only difference maker we have tonight. And that's a big one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we have consent agenda items. Entertain a motion to approve that. So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion about any items under the consent agenda items? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Reports. Chief of Learning, Dr. Schindler.
Okay, I have just a couple of updates for you for tonight. So I want to remind you that August the 12th through the 16th is going to be our new teacher orientation. So we'll have all of our brand new staff coming in together. We'll meet together the first day and then kind of separate out for the remainder of the week. But all week is going to be professional development opportunities and orientation for our new staff, and we're looking forward to that. I'm getting that prepared. Also, as a reminder, because of the way the schedule is structured this year, All staff will be present on the 19th. So from the 19th to the 26th, we have 6 days of professional development and building meetings that will be taking place for all staff. And so preparing for that and looking forward to it. Also want to update you on some work that we've done with the drug testing procedures. So I believe it was last month we talked about reaching out to our vendor, John, and getting some more information. And Chad and I have done that. And so here's some of the information that we received from John. We talked to him about our current practices with the urine analysis and the issues that we're having, and talked to him a little bit about what are other districts doing and what are the other tests available. And here's what we found out, that the majority of districts do use the urine analysis like we do. The pros of that is that it provides one of the second largest window, so 3 to 5 days out, and then if it's a marijuana use, it actually is past 5 days, so it actually provides a good window for assessing. The negative side is what we've experienced, and that is the belief that some students have the ability to get around that system, and it's not found that that's not really not a unique concern for us. That's something that's a concern in other areas. We talked about the oral swabs for saliva. That is obviously a little faster, a little easier. The issue with the oral swabs is that the window is 1 to 2 days in terms of drug use. So it's a little bit shorter window for drug use. So as example, if you were to assess kids on Wednesday, it's very possible they could have used drugs over the weekend and it wouldn't show up on those assessments. Another option for us was the hair samples. We discussed that. Those actually provide you a much longer window, anywhere from 1 week up to 90 days, depending on the extent of the drug use and the length of the hair. It actually provides you a much larger window. The issue with the hair analysis is that it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 days before the drug actually gets into the hair follicle above the scalp. Then for the analysis, you need, we're told, 1.5 inch length of hair. And so some of the concerns would be, we have some students that wouldn't have on their scalp 1.5 inches long, but you can use hair from other parts of the body. The concern with that is it becomes a little more intrusive than just removing hair from the scalp. So those are the pros and cons of the three. And in looking at those, one of the things we don't want to do is bring in additional concerns by bringing in new methods and then having to work through the problems. So we went back to what was the initial concern, and that was the possibility of students getting around the system of urine. So we are proposing to do is to move forward with changing the structure of the assessment windows and the number of students that we assess. So I told you that we were looking at 5-week windows, 7 of those, so throughout the year, 7 windows, 5 weeks. What we're going to propose is that during that 5-week window, we assess between 60 and 70 students. So we would test 6 total days, sometime within that 5-week window. And within that 6 days, we could have the number down to 10 to 12 students per day. And we have the capacity to monitor those students. So when a name is given to us, an adult will take that name, we'll walk directly to the classroom, we'll identify the child, we'll immediately take them with them, escort them to the testing center, where then they're in a secure location and they would not be allowed to be alone or to do some of the things that we have concerns with. So our proposal would be that we obviously will be testing fewer kids, but we believe that right now we just need to get a handle on the fidelity. And we believe we'll be just as effective by doing it that way than testing a lot of kids and not doing it well. So we propose that this year that we just move forward with that, and we'll monitor to see how well that goes.
Brian, how many approximately do we test per testing period?
So last year we tested 2,400, but remember that included the bulk testing, and we had eliminated the bulk testing. We're proposing now we will test somewhere around 450 students. So right around 49% of our students would be eligible for testing. We also, one of the changes we're going to make is, we have historically required students the number of events that they participated in. Their name went in that many times. So if you were in 2 sports, you'd be in there twice. Other districts don't do that, so in our proposal, a student's name will only go into the pool 1 time. So going in 1 time would allow us the potential of assessing up to 49% of the population that participate. So we'd like to try that, give that a go, and we'll monitor it and see how well that goes.
Thank you
Great.
for following up on that.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
That's what I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening. Couple things we've discussed in the past, and Philip wrote a story about it yesterday, but looking at the properties near Jefferson City High School and looking for land for us to possibly expand. When we passed J+C, we said from the beginning, we're not going to have a campus of haves and a campus of have-nots. We're going to have the same facilities. And if you look at the facilities at Capital City High School, we have soccer on the campus, we have baseball, softball, we have tennis, all of that is on the campus. There's room for other things, and we don't have that capability currently at Jefferson City High School. And so we still aren't exactly sure what would go into that area of land if we were to move forward, but it certainly gives us more options than what we have now to get to that goal of long range, getting our facilities at Jefferson City High School to mirror what we have at Capital City High School. So I sent letters to property owners in that area. I've received very good response. I only had 3 returned, so still working on how to get a hold of those landowners. The neighbors are talking, and so I've talked to a little more than half, and all but one are interested in. So right now we're just asking, or would you be interested in having a discussion? That's all we've been saying so far. So it's been very positive. So just wanting to update you that we're still going along, and so far it's been pretty positive as we talked to the property owners, and wanted to know if I could answer any questions for you about that so far.
I mean, anyone who's seemed to have been offended by our contact or?
No one's been offended. I've heard a lot of sad stories about how this is going to help them a lot, that they're needing someone to come in and they wouldn't know who would do that if it wasn't us. Several people that said it seemed to have made sense for a long time, but no one is offended. There's one person that says she's not ready to sell right now. She probably would be at some point in the future. And
Sure.
we had a very nice conversation today.
Okay,
So it's been pretty good so far.
all right.
So starting next year, I'm really excited. We're going to add a late bus at the middle schools. So kind of an activity bus. So we're looking to see if we can find a way to increase participation. So we have students that can't get a ride home if they stay after school. Also, we think it's going to be a nice option for after-school detention and make that a longer option and use that, because a lot of times if you give an after-school detention today, we're told, well, you might as well give in-school suspension because my student can't get home afterwards. So we take that excuse away. So I think it's going to bring along a lot of really good opportunities for both increased participation, a new alternative for discipline for us at the middle schools instead of ISS or OSS. So we had a meeting with the principals today. Robert Nesakia was there, and just trying to work out the details of how that works, but really excited about that opportunity going forward. And part of that is with the change in the bell times, with the middle schools going later now, we have a bus that will run routes, it'll run middle school routes, and then that bus will be available to come back later in the evening to get students and get them home at that later time.
So it'd be one bus at each middle school?
We're going to start with one bus at each middle school, but the plan is creating a Google form. Students have to say whether they're going to ride the bus that day by a certain time, and then we'll know how many students are going to be on the bus and how long the route might be, so we can alternate. If we need more buses, we can add a bus, because there's availability of buses and drivers at that time of the day.
So I don't mean to be snide, but how are they going to get on Google Form and do that if they can't use their device in the school?
But they all have Google, they all
on
have
their, like,
Chromebooks.
on
They
their
all have
Chromebooks. So
Chromebooks.
they can do it on their Chromebook,
Chromebook.
not on their phone.
Right.
Perfect.
Right. And then we're going to have a spot, we're trying to set it up so that they can all attend lunch. And so a reminder at lunch, a reminder advisory, if you're going to ride the activity bus, you need to sign up. So there'll be kinks to work through, but I think I'm really excited about that offering.
It's a great solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one thing for you to consider, as you see later in the agenda, there are several contracts that I'll be bringing for Bridget, and they're mostly just renewals of contracts. And so in the future, we'd like to consider maybe adding those under consent agenda. And so they would still be on there, and as you read through the contracts, if you had a concern, you could pull those out of the consent agenda, and we could approve the consent agenda and then discuss that item separately. But especially for just formality type contracts, something that we think would still get the approvals that we need, but then move the board meeting along a little bit. So no discussion or decisions now, but as you hear these 9 contracts that I'll bring there, you'll see the type of contracts we'd be considering.
Does anybody have any concerns with that?
These are renewals, right? Not
Right.
new ones?
And
was gonna say
anytime
that
there's a new one in there, we can say,
Yeah.
I want to pull this one out and discuss it, instead of just approving it with the consent agenda items.
Yeah.
And so we wouldn't do like Dana's going to talk about the food bid. We wouldn't do something like that. But Frank has a contract that we could maybe consider something like that, even a new contract that is just kind of a formality that, you know, we want you to read them and make sure you're comfortable with them, and we're happy to talk about anything in them. But we're going to approve 9 different contracts that are.
I think it's really important to encourage you, if you have any questions at all, and of now, of anything that's in the consent agenda, just like, hey, I'd like to pull this out and discuss it. That'd be great. I mean, you can always do that. We want to encourage us.
And it's
to
very
continue.
common practice around the state. for
And I think as
districts
long
to
as
do
we
it.
had them in advance, so in
Absolutely.
other words, if they were there a few days in advance so that we had an opportunity to read through them, and they're not just hitting the agenda the day before, or the day of,
Right.
then I think that gives adequate time.
Okay, we can try that, and well, remember, you can always pull them out, and if we don't like it, we can go back.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, just a few things. You know, a trip to Thorpe Gordon. There's still things that have came out that when folks came together after the tornado. So we won't try to you know, name everyone that came together because there were a lot of folks. But it's just been neat to see that. Lorelei and I attended the Red Cross Appreciation Reception on the 27th of June, and to Thomas Jefferson and opening up their doors as a community-wide shelter was so much appreciated. And so that their staff and all the folks that made that happen, and the folks here in the room, it really was a team coming together, and for our community that we are truly stronger together. So we attended that. Give the Capital City tour to the PEO ladies here last week. Had the Samaritan dinner as well, and what a great role they play in our community and those in need. So that was a great thing. Regina Rowe, who was our Teacher of the Year, she was, went to a luncheon in Columbia, is now a Regional Teacher of the Year. So I believe there are 33 or 34 now regions, and so she's one step closer to possibly being the State Teacher of the Year. So that was neat to honor her with that. Our Facilities Committee, we're meeting later this week on Thursday, and as we look at addressing options for K through 8 spacing needs, as we've discussed before. So we have a focus group of just considering options with that. So we're going to meet, and we'll give you an update next month on that as well. So that's all I have, unless anybody's got any questions for me.
Any questions for Larry on his report? All right, move on to new business. Readopt board policy BBFA.
Yes, on page 30, what's that? Or 30, is it 37? You may have a copy of it. It's basically the board member conflict of interest and financial disclosure that each year we have to approve. If you didn't, then each candidate or each of you would need to require a personal financial disclosure statement. So each year we ask you to approve this. MSBA recommends this of BBFA. You have a copy of that. It's not 37. It's in your packet under the tab, or I guess you guys have the
We don't have numbers.
electronic version. So asking for your approval that we do each year on this.
I move to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Contract with Interstate Studio, Mr. Gary Verslois.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this past June 30th was the end of our 4-year agreement with Wagner Portrait Group. And so earlier in the year, I asked the secondary administrators what was their pleasure. Would they like to extend a contract, either 1 year or continue, or would they open it up to other vendors? And they decided they wanted to open it up to other vendors. And so we send out RFPs, I think, to 5 different companies, and we received 4 back. And we decided to bring 3 in to meet in person and interview. And after, so it was a screening process first, and then after the screening process, we decided who we wanted to bring in, and then we met with the folks in person. And after we did that, we had some continued discussions. So it was the pleasure of different secondary folks from different secondary buildings. They were offered an opportunity to come in if they were with yearbook or graduation, or just whoever the people were that worked the closest with our photography people. And it was recommended that we get into a contract agreement of services with Interstate Studio. So this is their proposal. Basically, each vendor did very much the same thing. They just answered the questions as far as the type of services we were looking for. And so this was not necessarily our goal, but I believe with your blessing that will make us Interstate Studio K-12. Because I believe all of elementaries are with Interstate Studio, and all the secondary buildings were with Wagner, except TJ, they were with Interstate Studio. So that wasn't necessarily the priority, but that just happened the way it came out. So I didn't know if you had any questions from a parent perspective or a board member perspective, but
Same services that we've had in the past and with the other vendor.
right. And in fact, the Ashley Obermeyer, she will be our rep out of Columbia, and she's met with each school to meet and decide what their individual needs are in each building. So.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Consider and approve food bids. Oh, I got food bids next. Are you going ahead? Food bids?
Which one's shorter?
Mine might be shorter tonight because I don't have the food bids ready. When I got the bids back, I had 87 special order items that usually take a week or more to receive. So I'm researching those items, as well as I had 79 items in Group A and 180 in Group B that were alternate items from what I bid. So I'm still gathering information and trying to determine if the alternates that they bid are equivalent to what I've asked for. And so I don't have the bid ready tonight.
Get a pass.
So I get a pass?
You get a pass.
Okay. So I should have them ready for the August meeting. Okay.
And that'll be enough time
For you?
for you.
Well, it's gonna be a little iffy. I've talked with both who submitted bids about possibly extending last year's bid for 1 month, because it does have renewals clauses in it. So we could do that to purchase the startup food items needed to begin school with, and then switch over to the approved contract in September. So we're kind of researching that as well.
Would that be a headache for your staff to do that, or
If we need to call
wouldn't
a
you- we
special
just
meeting, let us know.
call
Okay.
us, yeah, I mean,
If we
Okay.
need to call a special
we could get
meeting.
together to approve that if we need
We
to.
love
Okay.
each other so much.
Appreciate that.
Quality bonding
I just spend
time.
hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours together.
Yes, we
Deep
do.
Okay.
into the night.
I do appreciate that, and
So if you
I'll
need
keep you
that, let us,
posted.
just let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bring
Nick.
the Tic Tacs.
All right, now Frank,
You want them?
you brought it.
Oh, it's your turn.
All right, Bill Binkley and Sons Excavating, they're actually doing the freezer pad and work to the, going to be the east sidewalk over there next to the playground. And once we got to doing that, the grade is something that they brought to our attention, and agree with them. And so essentially this is a change order, if you will, but it's brought on by us, not necessarily them, to do the sidewalk from the freezer pad up to the front of the school, heading west. And so there where the buses line up, if you go up there, the sidewalk's sunk and the curb is sticking about 2 inches above the sidewalk. And so it's a huge trip hazard. And so, and it's not all these items here. So what we would, what I'm coming to you for is $16,311 to get them to do this work, which is price 1, price 3, and then the French drain to add to price 1 for $16,311. And if anybody's got any questions, I'll have
Why aren't we doing price 2?
No,
Why?
no, well, because we need to grade it. That is so flat up there, they're actually having to dig the drain just to get the water to run. And where they were putting the freezer pad and the new sidewalk coming out of the kitchen and out of the cafeteria, it was creating a drain. It would create a drain issue during heavy rains. Rain would settle next to the building and up by the going west up towards the front. So bringing all that back up to grade, and that's what price 1 includes, is bringing in number 1 base rock and bringing it all up to grade and getting the water going the way it needs to go.
You have to Google that. I will.
French
So it
drain.
talks about demoing concrete, demoing sidewalks, but then it says excludes, it has exclusions, blasting, chipping, and removal of rock. Is that different than?
That's if they have to dig down and they get into base or limestone.
More
Is
stuff,
what's up
okay.
there, and Cowley County's notorious for that. You'll see that clause also in our sewer bid this next year. But yeah, that's.
Hopefully they wouldn't get that far down just for the sidewalk.
I hope not, but that school is sitting on a rock for the most part, most of it.
Okay. All right, I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this contract? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, Jason.
Thank you, Frank.
Got several here.
Capital Region contract. This first one is for audiological services. This is the second year of this contract. The rates are the same, so just extending the service that they provided for us this last year.
So no change in rates.
No change in rates.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm abstaining on that one. Any opposed?
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Motion passes. All right, consider an approved contract for KB Communications.
So you'll notice that the language for the next 2 contracts are the same. They are contracting services for speech language pathology services. We have a shortage across the country for SLPs in schools. And so Bridget is doing everything she can to get coverage. And so there's been some changes in the rules on retirees and how much they can work for schools. And so though both of those, KB Communications and Speech Pathology Services, are former employees who've retired and are now forming their own business, and they've been retired for a few years. And they're going to come back and perform services for us under a contracted service. So that's what both KB and Speech Pathology Services.
We'll approve them separately. Ready, want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract. For KB? For KB.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Same for speech pathology services, yes?
I'll make a motion to approve speech pathology services.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion. Consider and approve contract for Columbia Interpretive.
Columbia Interpreting provides sign language interpreters for us. This has been an existing partner for many years, updating the contract that was last signed in 2015. It does have a slight increase in rates from $96 an hour to $100 an hour. But just updating the language and getting rates updated and just having a current contract.
To approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, weeks orientation and mobility.
This company, it's an existing partnership again, been a partner for several years, renewing the contract. They provide assessments and direct therapy for students who need training and therapy in order to safely navigate the school and community environments.
Move to accept the contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Speak Easy LLC.
Speakeasy, again, this is instead of a single independent contractor, this is that provides SLP services for a lot of schools in the area. So again, Bridget to just get coverage where she can, where she's able to. We're planning on having 2 SLPs. One's a former employee and one will be new to the district, who will be working for Speakeasy on a part-time basis.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. E Squared Vision Services.
Again, another existing partnership for many years. Rates remain the same. They provide us with vision assessments and services for student impairments.
And this agreement's dated April 2019.
So,
Just
yeah,
updating the term.
there's an issue with IDEA funds. Anytime we use federal funds, have contracts approved before the fiscal year starts. So we get our budget application approved at the end of June, and if we have a contract signed before then, it's null and void. So I'm guessing we've been working on this for a while and just postponing the formal approval until after that July 1st date. We can adjust the date if you'd like, but
I just
sure,
looks odd.
It
We're
does.
approving it on July the 15th for an agreement.
right?
Yeah, she's not running until the 26th day of August. Right. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So this is just a renewal though,
It is correct.
Okay, of existing service.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Approve and consider approved contract with Missouri Goodwill Services for training for our students.
So this is a new contract. This is for the program where our students go and work there and receive training. We send a staff member there also, but we do compensate Goodwill service. We're going to have 4 JCPS students with special needs in the program. Previously, we had sent students to Lincoln, and some things changed and that wasn't an option, so we're now using Project Search with Goodwill.
Any change in the services from previously?
I don't know that I know that as well.
What it is we work with different job tasks that our students perform. We try to match them up with their skill set so they can be employed without the assistance of a parent, because that's what it's going to take to be able to hold down a job in the workforce. They try to come up with as many different jobs, and then these students rotate through, so they'll patients and learn different jobs to just make them more employable.
You said the 4 students? How do you choose?
There's a very specific criteria
Okay.
for these students that they have to meet to be eligible for the program.
Is there a funding source for this? Is this
It's
covered by
district funded now.
just district funding? I think it's great.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this contract? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Consider an approved contract with Advantage Nursing Services.
And again, an existing partnership for several years. This company provides nurses for individual students who require a private duty nurse in order to safely attend school. They only come when the student is at school. Comparable rates, it has a 50 cent an hour increase. And we do know that we have one student next year that will require private duty nursing. So the nice thing about Advantage is if we have another student move in or something happens and we need more or less, they have the resources to add and take away. It's been a really good partnership.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
We got future dates here. The custodian barbecue. The next board meeting is August the 12th. Opening session is August the 23rd. Coffee with Larry is going to resume in September the 6th. Then our September board meeting is moved back a week so that we can participate with Helias Golf Tournament, show our support for Helias. And then the all-staff barbecue will be on September the 20th before the football game. All right, that concludes, yes, our open meeting agenda.
It's way too early.
I know, and we don't have the closed meeting thing on.
I was like, I can't find it to read it to you.
It should be on the, are you logged into your
Yeah, I'm logged in.
Astrology?
I'd be happy to help you.
Like,
You don't have that memorized?
I don't have that memorized.
What was your one
I need
duty?
to work on that. That's my one job.
Jesus.
Got it. Motion to suspend open to enter into closed meeting pursuant to 610.021, 1 legal actions, 3 hiring, firing, disciplining, 13 individually identifiable personnel records, 14 records which are protected from disclosure by law.
I need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Victoria?
Yes.
Lorelei?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.